Have you ever stopped to think about the nature of God? We speak of His love, His power, His wisdom, but what about His invisibility? This fundamental aspect of God often goes unnoticed, yet it holds profound implications for our understanding of Him. The Bible tells us that God is invisible. He exists outside the realm of our physical senses, beyond the limits of our human perception. Join us as we delve into the mystery of God's invisibility, exploring its significance and uncovering the profound truths it reveals about the God we serve. The invisibility of God is a clear and consistent theme throughout Scripture. In the book of Exodus, Moses, after spending 40 days and nights in God's presence, pleaded to see His glory. God's response was both profound and revealing. "You cannot see my face, for no man shall see me and live." Exodus 33:20. Our physical eyes, bound by the limitations of the created order, are simply not equipped to perceive the unfiltered splendor of the divine. Yet even as God affirms His invisibility, He also reveals Himself to us in ways we can comprehend. The invisibility of God, far from being a barrier to faith, is actually the very foundation upon which it is built. The author of Hebrews reminds us, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." Hebrews 11:1. Our relationship with God is not contingent on physical sight but on spiritual perception. It thrives in the unseen, in the realm of the heart where we connect with God through faith, trust, and surrender. This is the paradox of faith, finding assurance in the unseen, drawing strength from the invisible, and experiencing the power of a God who is beyond our vision yet intimately involved in our lives. The Bible doesn't merely allude to God's invisibility, it declares it unequivocally. The Apostle Paul, writing to Timothy, describes God as the King, eternal, immortal, invisible, the only wise God, 1 Timothy 1:17. The Gospel of John emphasizes God's invisibility from the very beginning. "No one has ever seen God," John writes, "but the one and only Son, who is Himself God and is in closest relationship with the Father, has made Him known." John 1:18. Jesus Himself, during His earthly ministry, affirmed this truth. In John 5:37, He tells His listeners, "You have never heard His voice nor seen His form." The Apostle John, in his first epistle, reiterates this truth. No one has ever seen God, 1 John 4:12. This consistent testimony across different authors and time periods underscores the undeniable reality of God's invisibility. The echoes of God's invisibility reverberate throughout the Old Testament as well. When God appeared to Moses in the burning bush, He spoke from the midst of the fire. His presence manifested, yet His form concealed. Even when God delivered the Israelites from Egypt, parting the Red Sea with a display of awe-inspiring power, He remained invisible. Later at Mount Sinai, when God descended in a cloud of thunder and lightning to give the 10 Commandments, He made a deliberate choice not to reveal His form. By remaining invisible, He steered His people away from the pitfalls of idolatry, guiding them towards a faith rooted in the unseen. Why does God, who possesses infinite power and majesty, choose to veil Himself in invisibility? One reason is to cultivate faith. The author of Hebrews reminds us that without faith it is impossible to please God. Faith, by its very nature, requires an element of trust in the unseen. God's invisibility challenges us to trust in His promises, to rely on His word, and to walk by faith, not by sight. The encounter at Mount Sinai serves as a stark reminder that our human frame is not equipped to withstand the full force of God's glory. Just as the sun's intense rays can blind the unprotected eye, so too would the unveiled presence of God overwhelm our finite senses. Imagine for a moment standing before the very embodiment of holiness, power, and majesty. The sheer weight of God's presence, the brilliance of His unfiltered glory, would be more than our mortal minds and bodies could endure. This is not a limitation on God's part but a testament to His grace and mercy. He knows our limitations, understands the fragility of our human condition. Even this limited glimpse of God's glory was overwhelming for Isaiah. He cried out, "Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." Isaiah 6:5. This encounter left Isaiah shaken, acutely aware of his own sinfulness in the presence of absolute holiness. The Apostle John, in his vision recorded in the book of Revelation, also caught a glimpse of God's glory. He describes God as seated on a throne with a radiance like a jasper and a carnelian stone, and a rainbow, in appearance like an emerald, encircling the throne, Revelation 4:2-3. The invisibility of God then becomes not a barrier but a veil of mercy, a testament to his love and compassion for his creation. He knows that to experience the full weight of his glory in our current state would be to obliterate us. Yet even as God shields us from his full glory, he longs to reveal himself to us, to draw us into a deeper, more intimate relationship with himself. He speaks to us through his word, the Bible, illuminating our minds and hearts with his truth. And he has revealed himself most fully in the person of Jesus Christ, the Word made flesh, the visible image of the invisible God, Colossians 1:15. The scriptures hold out a glorious promise, a day when the veil of invisibility will be fully lifted and we will see God face to face. The Apostle Paul, writing to the Corinthians, speaks of this future time. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know just as I also am known. 1 Corinthians 13:12. This is the ultimate hope of every believer, the culmination of our faith journey, to stand in the unveiled presence of God, to behold his glory in all its fullness. Until that day, we walk by faith, not by sight, trusting in the God who is invisible yet ever present. We seek him in the quiet places of our hearts, in the pages of his word, and in the fellowship of his people. When God commanded his people not to create any image of him, he wasn't merely prohibiting the worship of carved idols or graven images. He was addressing a deeper issue, a tendency within the human heart to confine the infinite God to finite forms. The danger of idolatry lies not just in the physical act of crafting an image, but in the mental act of limiting God's nature to our limited understanding. It's tempting to try to contain the vastness of God within the boundaries of our human experience, to reduce him to something we can comprehend and control. The prohibition against making images of God is a call to break free from the shackles of limited thinking, to embrace the reality that God is beyond our comprehension. The problem with creating mental images of a lesser God is that it distorts our understanding of who he truly is and what he is capable of doing. When we limit God in our minds, we limit his power in our lives. If we perceive God as distant or uninvolved, we may hesitate to approach him with our needs and desires. If we view him as harsh or unforgiving, we may live in fear of his judgment and struggle to experience his grace. Our perception of God shapes our prayers, our worship, and ultimately our relationship with him. Embracing the infinite nature of God requires a shift in perspective, a willingness to let go of our preconceived notions and allow God to reveal himself to us in all his fullness. It means acknowledging that our finite minds cannot fully grasp the infinite God, yet we can still know him personally and experience his transformative power in our lives. The scriptures provide us with glimpses of God's infinite nature, attributes that defy human comprehension yet inspire awe and wonder. He is described as eternal, existing outside of time and space, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To embrace the infinite nature of God is to stand in awe of his majesty, to acknowledge our limited understanding, and to approach him with humility, reverence, and a heart open to his revelation. The pursuit of a true revelation of God is a lifelong journey, seeking and discovering the one who is beyond our comprehension. It requires humility and a deep desire to know God more fully. The scriptures encourage us to seek God with all our hearts, to meditate on his attributes, and to commune with him in prayer. The Holy Spirit reveals the depths of God's love, grace, and power. Open my eyes that I may see wondrous things from your law. Psalm 119:18. This is the cry of the heart that longs for more of God. The journey of knowing God is challenging but incredibly rewarding. Our faith deepens, our love grows stronger, and our lives are transformed by the power of the invisible God. While we may not bow down to statues or carved images, The human heart is adept at crafting its own idols, subtle and often unnoticed. These idols aren't fashioned from wood or stone, but from the very fabric of our desires, ambitions, and fears. They are the things we prioritize above God, the things we rely on for security, significance, or fulfillment. These heart idols can take many forms. They might be the pursuit of wealth and possessions, the craving for power and recognition, or the relentless pursuit of pleasure and comfort. They can also be more subtle, disguised as good intentions, noble ambitions, or even religious practices. The danger of these heart idols is that they deceive us into believing that they hold the key to our happiness and fulfillment. We invest our time, energy, and emotions into pursuing them, often at the expense of our relationship with God. And when these idols inevitably fail to deliver on their promises, we are left feeling empty, disillusioned, and even further from the one who truly satisfies. The God who is invisible to our physical eyes can be easily eclipsed by the idols that capture our hearts. One of the most insidious ways these heart idols distort our understanding of God is by projecting their limitations onto Him. We begin to perceive God through the lens of our own desires and expectations, rather than seeing Him as He truly is. If our heart idol is wealth and security, we may view God as a cosmic vending machine, dispensing blessings based on our performance or our ability to manipulate circumstances. If our heart idol is power and control, we may see God as a distant ruler imposing His will from afar, or we may try to manipulate Him to conform to our desires. And if our heart idol is approval and affirmation, we may perceive God's love as conditional, based on our worthiness or our ability to meet certain standards. Each of these distorted reflections diminishes the true nature of God, reducing Him to a caricature of His infinite self. We lose sight of His unconditional love, His boundless grace, and His unwavering faithfulness. We become trapped in a cycle of striving, seeking fulfillment in the very things that separate us from the source of true joy and peace. Breaking free from the tyranny of heart idols requires a deliberate and ongoing process of surrendering our desires to God, allowing Him to search our hearts and reveal the hidden idols that hinder our relationship with Him. The psalmist's prayer is a powerful reminder of our need for God's illuminating grace. "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties, and see if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." Psalm 139 verses 23 to 24. As we invite God to search our hearts, He gently reveals the idols we have erected, the things we cling to for security, significance, or fulfillment. He doesn't condemn us for our misplaced affections, but offers us a better way, a path that leads to true freedom and lasting joy. The process of surrendering our heart idols can be painful, like prying open clenched fists that have held on to something for far too long. But as we release our grip on these lesser things, we create space for God to fill us with His love, His peace, and His transforming presence. As we surrender our heart idols to God, something remarkable begins to happen. Our vision clears, the distorted reflections fade, and we begin to see God more clearly. No longer confined by the limitations of our own desires and expectations, we are able to perceive His infinite love, grace, and power in new and transformative ways. This unveiling of the heart is a gradual process, often marked by both joy and struggle. There will be times when we stumble, tempted to grasp for old comforts or familiar patterns. But as we persevere in seeking God, surrendering our desires to Him and allowing His Spirit to work within us, we experience a profound shift in our perspective. We begin to see the world around us with new eyes, recognizing God's hand at work in the ordinary and the extraordinary. We find joy not in the fleeting pleasures of this world, but in the abiding presence of the One who created us and called us by name. And we discover a strength and resilience we never knew we possessed, rooted not in our own abilities, but in the unshakable knowledge that we are loved, cherished, and empowered by the God who is invisible, yet always with us. Living in the light of the invisible God is not about retreating from the world, but about engaging with it in a new and transformative way. Bringing God's presence into our relationships, our work, our dreams, letting His love shape our interactions, His Spirit guide our decisions, and His promises fuel our perseverance. We become beacons of grace and truth, finding our worth in His unwavering love. facing life's challenges with courage, knowing we are not alone. He is a loving Father, a constant companion, a source of strength and guidance. May we live each day in His light, experiencing His unseen hand at work